Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cat Chat with Bridget and Andy. This episode is really kind of cool. It has similar tie-ins to our last episode regarding the hidden tiger, but with a different species altogether. So I'll let you kind of share with everybody what they can plan on hearing without giving too much away.
Of this episode?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Awesomeness, greatness, the the spirit of saving animals, and actually a really big way with this particular episode. So in this particular episode, you're going to find somebody that you recognize if you've been following Big Cat Rescue for a while. Do we want to introduce her here, mention her here? Might as well. You're going to see her in 2 seconds. So for any of you that remember Vanessa, if you want to give some background real quick on what she was doing and why she is important to listen to.
Vanessa was a volunteer and intern for Big Cat Rescue for several years. So we will catch up with her and her partner in conservation here in just a minute or two. And they will kind of give us the rundown of what's happening with all the different species in South Africa, including the big cats. So it's definitely a must listen, must watch. And you guys are going to enjoy it. I mean, we loved every minute of it, and it was really interesting, enlightening, educational, and fun all at the same time. So it's definitely opened my eyes to things that are going on around the world that I didn't necessarily know were happening. And it gave me the opportunity to kind of figure out how to help animals in the wild even more than we already are, and in very simple ways.
Yeah. So we hope you enjoy this podcast. There is a lot packed into this. They cover an awful lot of ground really quickly. So stick with it. I think it's about an hour long, and I hope you guys enjoy.
We'll see you again soon.
There we go.
Only a whole hour late. I'm so sorry, guys.
All good. It's the way of the world. All good.
It's good faces.
Good to see you,
You too.
My gosh, your hair has gotten so long.
Yeah, it's quite ridiculous.
All right.
Let me do Divan.
Yeah. Hi. How you
Hey,
doing?
how's it going?
Hello.
Guys, this is Divan, and then that's Andy and Bridget.
Nice to
Lekker.
meet you.
We're 7 or 8 hours in front of you, so we're in the future. So everything is hunky-dory. Just letting you know.
Nice.
Oh my gosh. You guys must be exhausted after a long day.
Well, we kind of went on holiday for the weekend, but it's your typical bush problems. So when we got back, we had a vehicle that didn't work. And then we had to pick up our little anti-poaching dog in training because we're babysitting her for the night. And then baboons trashed our front lawn. So we needed to fix that. And then our Wi-Fi is slow. So we
Yeah. It's another day in Africa, you know?
Man, here's a
Oh my gosh.
heck with raccoons. Here's baboons.
Yeah.
Nope. Pass.
A hard pass.
Hard
yeah,
pass.
take my trash pandas any day.
Yeah, they have, the baboons have like thumbs and
They can actually open up the garbage can.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, primates are intimidating.
Yeah. Throw the garbage
They
can
really-
at you.
Ooh,
Yeah.
hard pass.
No,
They've
I'm good.
tried.
All right. So should we just dive right in?
You ready to get this party started?
Let's do it.
All
let's do it.
right.
Cool.
All right. So we are here with Vanessa, and she is going to share with us some of the things that have been going on in her life. So first and foremost, Vanessa, what are you up to now? And how did you land here? What were the steps that you started building on to get to where you are now?
Okay, cool. So right now I am volunteering, basically shadowing this guy at Kazuko Lodge and Reserve here in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. So we do a lot of habitat restoration right now. We also are involved in our anti-poaching unit. and
Monitoring.
and animal monitoring. And kind of the reserve is very big on the cheetah meta population.
Oh,
So that's very exciting.
that is very
so
exciting.
So that's kind of a quick overview of what we're doing now. But then my whole journey, you want like the whole journey from the start,
Cliff
or
notes,
just how I
yeah.
came down from Big Cat? Okay, so so I started working with exotics when I was 17 at a zoo. And then I quickly learned that zoos weren't my forte. So then I found Big Cat Rescue, which I had been at for about 7 years as a volunteer. And then I got a position as head animal manager at a big cat sanctuary on the Western Cape called Panthera, Africa. So I was there for about 2.5 years. And then my main goal was to always work in conservation and work out in the wild. So luckily at Panthera, Africa is where I met this guy. And he offered that I come and help out at Kazuko and get my foot in the door for conservation.
Nice. So how was being in a completely different country, like halfway across the world during a global pandemic? How was that? Because that seems like it would have been kind of intense.
It was actually the perfect place to be during the pandemic, because all of the staff, I was there for most, I was there at the sanctuary for most of the pandemic and lockdowns, because South Africa also went through our lockdown and mask regulation and things. But I got to live on property at the sanctuary with our close-knit staff. And so it was just us, and we got to still go outside and do our job, and things were pretty much normal, except when we had to go into town for whatever reason. But that was a responsibility of just one person who had to go and do grocery shopping for about 12 people at the sanctuary. So bless her, she did that for about 2 months.
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
So
But I feel like it's been a lot better than in Florida, if I'm completely honest.
yeah, it's been dicey here. I think a lot of it is just I don't want to say blown out of proportion, because I don't think I'm giving it the gravity it deserves, but it's just there's a lot of noise, a lot of scary noise. So
yeah, I think also having to deal with like Tiger King fallout was a big factor as well. So not only did you have the pandemic, but you had like all of the things that happened related to the Netflix drama that was just insanity. So
yeah, you got lucky on that one.
Yeah.
The drama hit us over here. Do you know how
Really?
many people I've met over here without even prompting to say I'm from America or Big Cat Rescue, that they start making Joe Schreivogel jokes and Carole Baskin and all of the typical meme things you hear. And I'm like, yep, I worked for her for 7 years. That's fine. And then almost every single person I've had a conversation about it. So
yeah,
it's an action too.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
we
then you
took
did
pretty
not
much-
dodge that bullet.
Yeah.
What's that?
No, I said you in South Africa, we take almost everything in humor. If there's something bad, we'll make something funny out of it. So
Yeah, we try to do that here. Usually it comes out inappropriate, but we pull it off well.
Yeah, only when you're saying it, it's inappropriate.
Yeah. So
Well,
you're up.
what does your normal day-to-day look like now that you're where you are?
So every day is a little bit different. So some days we are covering our animal monitoring. So we go and check up on our key species, one of which is our pre-release cheetah. So the project is really big on taking captive bred cheetahs and being able to rewild them. And we've worked with other reserves and sanctuary in the past. But right now we have one female who is on it. What did you say? A 400 hectare section? Yeah. So she started off in a smaller boma and we were feeding her periodically. But then she moved to this 400 hectare section and is now hunting by herself and is thriving.
Wow.
So we check up on her, just about once a day, make sure that she is hunting successfully and doing quite well. And it is in the future that we hope to pair her with 2 young males that are currently in a boma here on our property. And then they can form a coalition and be successful that way.
Yeah, so the project has helped with the meta population. We've released 20 cats last year with EWT, Endangered Wildlife Trust, and we're one of the first projects to ever have released so many cats back into the wild. So we've contributed and combined our efforts conservationally, united, and we've just reached so much more ground being together and reaching that, that frontier, because cheetahs are, as you know, they're such an endangered species, especially in Africa. And there's only about 350 in the private reserves across Africa, which is almost nothing.
Yeah.
So Akira, the one that we monitor every day, her grandmother contributed population genetics back into the cheetah conservation efforts. So she's quite a special cat. And the two boys that we've got in a boma now, her mom is quite an amazing story. This cat, they found this cheetah in between 9 tigers roaming around, and she survived somehow. And then she was transported to our reserve, and we released her immediately, and we never saw her again. We tried to search for. We've got about a 15,000 hectare reserve, so try to look for that cat is like a needle in a haystack. And yes, on 3 occasions, I mean, when I was walking on foot, she would be right next to you in the bush and just scat off. And then we had other 2 boys on the property also, and they lion savvy, so we gave them to another reserve to feed back into the meta population. And those 2 boys impregnated her. And so those 2 boys are lion savvy now, because we got 4 lions roaming here on the property. One of them is a very famous lion in South Africa. He escaped out of a national park. He was free for 30 days. And the farmers actually love him because the theft stock reduced around the farm. So nobody wanted to steal any more theft in Africa. Always these things. And now he's here by us, and he's quite a cool lion. But now these 2 boys are now lion savvy, which makes it incredibly cool. And so when we're going to pair them up in a boma, we're going to put them together, and then we're going to release them into the bigger reserve. And then those boys will just teach her just to stay away from the lions. But I'll hand it over to Vanessa again.
So question for you. You guys keep saying a boma. Is this a place, or what is this?
So a boma is basically just a small enclosure.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we use it to acclimate the cats to our project. Kind of like how you would if you brought home a new cat. You put them in your bath first and let them get acclimated to everything around before you release them into the full house.
Got it. All
Gotcha.
Right. That makes a lot more sense.
That was a very good description and comparison, because I think a lot of listeners can relate to that.
I know my cat.
Should just put a sign on the bathroom door.
Cheetah, do not enter.
From
Cheetah.
the hours of 6 to 7 a.m. Obama.
So do you have like tracking monitors on these cats, or are they just okay?
Yes. So on the cheetah, they each have a tracking collar, and we use the telemetry to track her down every day. Although sometimes you still can't find her.
All right, so we are checking for our resident cheetah right now with our telemetry. So we plug in the number that corresponds to her collar that she's wearing, and then we scan her area, which is about 400 hectares. We won't be able to scan the entire camp, but there are lookout points that will give us a good signal. So we hear no beeps on the telemetry, which means she's not in this area. So we'll just have to go to the next spot. Louder the beep, closer the cat. And there's our cat. Hi, Akira.
Her, and then our other big 5. So we have a herd of buffalo. We've got white rhino on the property, which is very nice. But then our habitat restoration is a lot of planting speckbone or elephant bush. And you know more about the actual bush than I do. It's a really interesting plant where it can restore a lot of carbon into the ground. And the issues that we're seeing now is not only are we in the middle of a really bad drought, but the land that we are sitting on now had been overgrazed by farm animals. So the land in certain places is just desolate. And you can even see on one side, it'll be green and nice and beautiful, and then just a straight line where the fence line was, and then it's just dirt. Nothing will grow there. So every day we plant, once a month we plant, it's 3 areas of 80.
Yeah, 240 each month. But last month we planted 1,500 trees.
Oh, wow.
So it's this special, it's a succulent actually. And it can help restore the carbon into the ground. It keeps the water in the plant super long, and it helps the other plants around it grow as well. So, and it can be its own little ecosystem essentially, when it really starts to thrive.
It's an eco-engineer plant. It facilitates other plant species to grow and adapt from there. And it's actually beautiful. And it's we're part of the United Nations now with the Decade of Habitat Restoration, where we're running tests for the universities to help for a decade restore degraded area and also help with the climate change impact. So this plant is a forerunner because you just propagate it, cut it, put it in the ground, and it grows. So it's a cost-saving method of restoring. So we're aiming at 1 million hectares that we want to restore, basically back to its natural, thickets. And it will consume about 80 tons a hectare a year. This plants.
That is awesome, because honestly, without plant life, you can't have animal life. Like there's that symbiotic relationship between the two, where if you have no trees and you have no plants, then you have no animals, none.
Exactly.
So, in order to have wild animal life thriving, you need to have that plant life thriving first.
Yeah.
And that's why trees and plants are so vitally important to our environment and our ecosystem all over the world. So that's awesome. I love that. I'm a big giant wood nerd and a tree nerd because I've always been a tree nerd, but that makes me super happy. I love hearing that. So it sounds like you guys really have like this whole like ecosystem that you're working on in its entirety, which is great. It's not just focusing on the cats or the animals, and it's not just focusing on the plant life. It's putting them all together to create this thriving environment.
It's the circle of life, man.
Yeah, that's basically it.
So
we'll send you some videos of Sylvester, this famous lion that had South Africa up in arms for a month, where he escaped out of the Karoo National Park. And he was gone for a month, and there was people searching for him a whole month. So he crossed all the farmlands and they couldn't find him, and they had the best trackers. Eventually they got him, and then they brought him to Kazuko, next to Addo Elephant Park in the Eastern Cape in South Africa. So he's roaming now here, and he's a good boy so far, but he's escaped 3 times out of our reserve, and he's caught a giraffe on the neighbor, and the neighbor wasn't very happy about losing his giraffe, but it's one of these things. But since then, he's been a good boy. He's not been escaping. We need a new satellite collar, actually, that we're looking for, because his satellite collar just died, and now we got just this his VHF frequency working. So he's being a good boy so far. He's just capturing eland. He's hunting eland like it's no man's business. Like it's like McDonald's, just it's just eland is one of the biggest antelope species in the world in Africa. But that's his creme de la creme of food choices.
Is antelope?
Yeah, it's called the eland antelope. Yeah, they're massive. They're bigger than a buffalo.
Oh, I know,
African buffalo.
They're bigger than buffalo.
Yeah. So that's his preferred.
I think Mitsubishi named a car after it.
The Galant.
Yes.
Oh, of course you know that.
So you and Vanessa, you obviously worked with cats forever. How's the transition to other species been for you?
I love it. I love seeing how everything works together. And again, my goal has always been to work in conservation. So yeah, I was a little bit of an interesting hiccup coming into a new, I guess, career path. So working from captivity to wild, then, jumping into a new culture, a new language, also learning how to drive a manual car.
Oh, you didn't know that before?
No, what are the odds?
Did you see her last car?
Yes, I did. I drove it many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very interesting. I think I was almost silent for the first 2 months that I was here because I was just taking in everything and listening to him and listening to the managers and listening.
Carry on.
Okay. And listening to everything so I could just take it all in and soak it all in. But it's been amazing.
Just wanna show you our two boys. These are actually our two boys here. This is Phyllis and this is Sylvester at the back.
Oh,
So just to give you a little bit of idea of the naughty boy. Here he is.
oh, they're beautiful though.
Do you remember Cecil Lion?
Yes.
The lion got shot by the dentist. So his story influenced saving Sylvester.
Yeah, big time. It was a big move.
Good.
If it wasn't for Cecil, that lion would have been shot.
Why
So one
is
of
that?
my
Because in South Africa, there's a big problem in Africa with lions. You know, there's not enough, there is land, but not enough conserved land. We need more land bought and then put together to protect the animals on that land. So the land is currently where they're on is running dry and there's too many lions. So there's not enough space to move all these lions. So the nomads, there's already territorial grounds situated in the park. So the nomads and new lions get pushed out to the boundaries and then they escape, they push out. And then the park sports, only option is what they can do is then shoot these lions because they're becoming a problem for the community, unfortunately. But with Sylvester's story, with Cecil's story, it turned the public's attention to save this lion, and it pushed the government of South Africa to not kill this lion. And it was a big effort. It's a heroic effort. It's quite a beautiful story. If you Google him, Sylvester the lion, you'll read up more about him and see what he's up about. His real name is Spook. If you go to the Karoo National Park and you talk about Spook translation, it means ghost because he was like a ghost. But then the media changed him into Sylvester, so he's now known as Sylvester the lion.
So, like, what is the response of the local residents regarding wild exotic cats? Is there support? Is there fear? Is there anger? How do the local residents respond to having exotic cats sort of in their vicinity?
As pets or as wild animals?
Just as wild cats, just, like roaming on through.
You're kind of like a baboon in your trash.
Yeah.
So our reserve it's a fenced reserve. So we're 15,000 hectares, so we are quite big. But it's interesting I have a very small amount of knowledge from only being here for a few years, but a lot of like school kids and small children have never seen any of these big animals ever. So educating the kids is one of the biggest ways that we can change how people perceive these big cats and other wild animals. You tell kids what a rhinoceros is and they're like, what's that? I've never even heard of that. And then, they live in their backyard essentially. So being able to teach them is one of the biggest steps into the future of conservation.
Yeah.
But sorry, go on.
Go on.
I was gonna say on the flip side, unfortunately, for animals that are outside of our reserve, so that are free roaming, so wild leopards and caracals are more nuisance animals because they're great at hunting cattle and sheep, and it's unfortunate, but for the farmers to keep their money and their salaries and a living, especially in the middle of a drought, one way to do that is by putting those animals down when they're able to trap them.
Yeah, so majority of South Africans love wildlife. It's our heritage, it's our passion, it's who we are. If you talk to any South African, it's about the big five, and especially big cats. People love the lions. That's why Sylvester was such a big story and up in the media here in South Africa. But also, with the leopards regarding on the farmers, it's a lot of wildlife conflicts happening with the wild leopards. And there's so much that we need to do still, and so much that we're learning from our past and moving forward, that we need to come together and just help these animals. In the Eastern Cape, there's no research really done on the leopards. We went twice to an occasion where a farmer caught a leopard just on the other side of the hills here, and we went to assist and with a vet, and we just came and we gave them collars, and we moved that leopard into a new area and a reserve and a home. But then the female leopard escaped out again, and you can't keep a leopard in here. It's their playground. They go everywhere they want. So we're trying with efforts to help these cats, the leopards, essentially also protect them from the farmers. And that's why the only thing that you can do is monitor them and dart them and put a GPS collar on them. And if they get close to livestock, is to go to the farmers and tell them, listen, there's a leopard close in the area, just get your livestock and your goats and your sheep back into the paddock. Or we'll try and use the stirring, flashing light to get them out of the way. Ish. We've got a little puppy anti-poaching dog. You're biting me. Ow. She's got a nibble here. He's standing here biting and nipping me. It's like, oh. But yeah, in a short, people are very passionate about the big cats here in South Africa. And
that's good to hear.
There was an onslaught where 7 lions were shot because they escaped again out of another national park. We've got a couple of them. And when that went around that there's 7 lions were shot, there was a massive outrage from the public against that. There can always be a way. If you just have to look hard and work together, there can be a way where we can get these lions to a safe area. But at the moment, there's a massive problem with wild lions in South Africa or Africa. Their space is running out, and the genetics are also running out. It's being bottlenecked, and yes, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, which is it's an opportunity and there's solutions to be done. And I'm sure with the rest of the world, we can solve that problem.
So how could people at home help, the exotic cats in the wild of Africa? How can people at home help you guys or help the cats just in general in the wild and protect them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think people can, if they want, good organizations are out there, but those specific projects that we need to establish are not yet there. That's the thing. There's a lot of attention is now on the rhinos in South Africa. That's the focus, because we're losing every 8 hours. We're losing a rhino in South Africa. Every day there's 100 elephants being poached in Africa. There's, even with the COVID now, a lot of people lost their jobs, their careers and their jobs, and there's poverty, unfortunately. And the only means that they can do is go hunt a rhino and get that horn. And people are making money now out of this. And now in the 5 years, they say in the next 5 years, there won't be any rhinos left. That's the situation we're facing at the moment. So there's no real focus being put on the lions, but I feel like there needs to be a real good project put together for lions. And then we can take it from there, where we can get the metapopulation of lion genetics back in order. And then we can shift, open corridors and create more land. That's what we need to do. We need to buy more land and co-op with existing projects that is there, or national parks, government parks, and be part of the conservation initiative to create more land for these cats so there can be more diverse genetics. I think that's the only solution that we can go forward. But we're still a long way from there. But we'll get there. I mean, we're seeing a solution now. We're talking to the youth. We're educating the youth. The youth is getting inspired. We can see that change happening, which is exciting. And it is so much opportunity, so much solution. And I feel if somebody wants to get involved, that's get in contact with us and we make a plan together. I think the only thing that we can do is have meetings and put stuff together and talk, and then put it on paper and put it in black and white, and we take it forward from there. And we get this flag up and going.
So if anybody wanted to get in contact with you guys, what, I guess, organization are you both with? What's the name of it?
So we're part of Kazuko Foundation, which is focused on cheetah conservation. But we've also started our own non-profit organization called Wildlife Warriors Africa, spelled with a K, not a C, Africa with a K.
Okay.
And our goal is to initially do that, is to create these corridors or existing game reserves and add on land to that and get into the genetics of lions. And then we can use that genetics to place and form coalitions and put those lions out there, and try and sort out the solution or the problem and make a solution. And take the existing nomads that are being pushed out of the park, and then we've got a new park. We can take those, make a collision with those lions and put them into another park, and then that genetics can go on, and it won't be just bottlenecked from one lion source, one pride, where it goes out. That's the problem what we're having now, is we're getting bottlenecks genetics from 1 or 2 lions, and then from there on there's like 50 lions. That's the problem. We can't have that anymore. We need to now diverse our genetics and get it in order.
So when you're talking about the genetics, is there is there an issue with inbreeding then, just because they're living in such close proximity?
Yeah, that's the problem. So there's not enough land, and wild lions are not. We had 4 lions that we gave away here to another game reserve, but now that game reserve is going down. It's just, it's a dire situation at the moment. We need more land. We need more understanding of how we're going to solve this problem, because everybody's got now lions, but they got no space to put them anywhere. So the only solution that they can do is now put these lions down, which is unfortunate, because those genetics, if we can just savor that genetics and give more land for the lions, then we can save these species. Now they're just staying in this bottleneck area where they're staying in one place, and the genetics is just going in a circle the whole time. And then those lions are just being put down, and then there's no real solution yet. Yeah. It's actually a very, if you think about it, it looks like a very dire situation, but we see the optimistic solutions. We see the opportunity that we can fix this.
I think it's nice to know that there is the potential for change. I mean, Vanessa, you and I especially have worked with cats, exotic cats that are inbred, and, you know, seeing the effects that has on them physically, mentally, health-wise, all of those things that can sort of feel daunting and overwhelming. But you guys have like that different aspect of being able to be out, you know, in wildlife conservation. So there is the potential for change and, you know, kind of adjustment. Whereas working with cats in captivity, it's, you know, until, at least in the United States, until that Big Cat Public Safety Act passes, it feels like there will never be that opportunity for getting rid of inbreeding in exotic cats, at least here. So it's comforting, and it's sort of uplifting to feel and to know that you guys have that sort of positive outlook. Like, this is something that can change. You just need the support from South African residents and citizens, I'm guessing, and the government of South Africa.
Yeah,
the world, actually. I think it's the responsibility of the whole world, because you know, we all share this planet. It doesn't matter from where you are. This is everybody's heritage at the end of the day. You know, the lion is one of the most iconic animals in the world. If you talk to a kid, any kid anywhere, and you go to a kid and you tell him, give me an animal's name, he'll go, a lion. I bet 90% of the kids will go lion. So I think it's our duty as custodians to look after these animals and make sure that there's a future heritage for other people to enjoy. And they got the important role in conservation to play. Without the lions, you know, there's nothing will exist. We've seen that so many times. We go to an area where there's nothing, you put lions in there, it just brings the bird life back. The dung beetles, everything comes back to life. It's almost like they are the pinnacle of everything, that they need to be into the environment. And without the lions there, nothing will survive. It's just the whole chain revolves, to me, around the lions. And that's just my experience living into the bush and what I've seen and witnessed.
I will also say there's a mirroring that I have seen from coming from the States and sanctuaries and zoos to out here, where the world, anyone in tourism, especially, you know, put your money where your mouth is. If you love animals, you don't go to places where you can touch them and pet them and things like that. And we see that with what Big Cat Rescue puts out, you know, mostly with the tiger trade in the States to go to pets and things. And we see that similarly with lions here. There's tons and tons and tons and tons of breeding facilities here that are breeding lions, and they scream the name of conservation, but all those lions are doing are pay to plays. And then they go and fund can hunting, as opposed to really working towards genetics and conservation. And over the last year, our government opened their eyes, and they did note what is happening, because right now there's an estimated 11 to 13,000 lions that are in cages. And they came out and said, we recognize that this is happening and we want to change. So let's stop breeding in captivity. But there is such a big hunting industry on this side that we're getting a big friction and a big fight to keep those lions going in that way. So again, if people want to, hopefully once COVID is done, or we've moved on from lockdowns and we're back to being safe, and tourism can start to bring up again, people can do their research and look into true conservation efforts and working on wild and reserves rather than focusing on I want to touch this animal. You can get a picture with it and move on. So there are volunteer programs. We have a volunteer program here as well that hopefully it will be able to take off again once the borders can start opening and people can travel more. But it is about the individual doing their research and doing what's right for the animal, not for any selfish reasons.
Now, in many ways, we know that tourism helps, and then tourism can hurt. I guess from your end, being kind of right there, seeing it firsthand, how does it help and how does it hurt?
I'd say, again, I have a much smaller window of knowledge than this guy from being out in the wild, but South Africa is suffering from the lack of tourism. They thrive on the international people who can come and stay at their, I'm going to need to charge my phone, but they thrive off the international tourists who can come and take in the wildlife. And for the people that I've spoken to and even books that I've read and the people that come here, they have the best intentions of coming to see the wildlife and loving them. And if you go to a reserve that conservation is their main focus, you're not driving the truck right up to the animals. You're not getting out and touching them. You're not encroaching on their business. The people here, the rangers here, they recognize the animals' attitudes and, really take their respect into account. So there is a way, I strongly believe that humans and animals can thrive together perfectly. We can live in the same area. We can enjoy our company. There is a symbiotic relationship that humans and animals have. We just need to find that balance of not pushing our limits.
Now, you mentioned, getting right up next to the animal. If somebody was to travel there and they were to want to see the animals, how could they tell the difference between a place that is, being responsible and then a place that is a complete money grab?
I mean, in my experience, and it's the same as what, Big Cat Rescue says when you go to visit animals in the States, you look for if there's people touching the animals or cheetahs on leashes, or if it's just, you want to ask those big questions. Are you breeding and why are you breeding? Are you just breeding for the sake of having cubs and bringing in money? Or are you actually breeding for a project like ours where we have the evidence, we have it on record that we are adding to this amazing meta population and we're working on getting the cheetah numbers up. So it might take a little more than just looking at a brochure. But there are places out there. There's even a website called, what is it called? Volunteers in Africa Beware, which is seeking out the bad places that you don't want to volunteer. The ones who the cubs go to can hunting facilities.
It's basically any place that you can play with a lion it's bad. It's just, we're totally against it. And there's a few other great organizations out there, Bloodlines. I don't know if you heard about Bloodlines, the documentary Bloodlines.
I've heard that.
It's on Netflix currently, and it exposes everything about the can hunting industry and how bad it is, just to everybody. And I think that's a good educational facility to start if you want to start researching into places like that. And Bloodlines are amazing at what they're doing and what they have done into exposing these cruel, just unhumane places that just rear these cubs and then they end up being hunted, and it's just all for blood money at the end of the day. And that's what we eventually need to stop, because there's more captive lions in South Africa than wild lions. We've got only about 2,500 wild lions remaining here in South Africa. Damn. And that number is it's decreasing. Like I said, we had 4 cubs here, and our property couldn't sustain 8 lions roaming around. 8 lions eat a lot. They chow a lot. And also the male lion Sylvester was starting to bite these. He was going to kill these 3 young males. So we needed to move them out, and we emailed 60 reserves, private reserves, and everybody came back to us and asked, not everybody, but majority of them came back to us and asked, can I hunt them? And we were like, no, we can't hunt these animals. They are genetic legacy. Now you want to shoot out a genetic legacy. And then only two places, well, majority of them said they can't. there was a couple of places that said, can I hunt them? And we were like, no. And then there was one place left, what's called Magic Hills. And unfortunately now, COVID, that whole place just folded, just went poof. And we lost one of the elephants broke into the camp where they were in. It was a pre-release boma and killed the female. So now there's only 3 boys left. And it looks like that place is now currently being in the market. And I can't see that they're going to have a profit because they're literally in the middle of the middle of the middle. I know we're in the middle of nowhere, but they also like farther in the middle of nowhere, which is quite, it's hard to access to that reserve, it's a beautiful reserve. It's massive, beautifully, but they're now running into ground. They're not getting any tourists. They had to lay off people. We had to lay off people. We had to lay off 60 people here on our reserve. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of, people are dependent on conservation in the community, and the community of what conservation brings to being sustainable for a family is that, this reserve feeds not just 60 people, it's 60 plus people, because it's people coming from very poverty-struck areas, and we're giving them opportunity to develop. And the owner of this place is also, if people came here as cleaning the floors and they worked themselves up to being a manager, he will start giving you shares in the company. And that's how this reserve works here. We see the potential, and we want to uplift people and bring out the best in you. But now with COVID, we had to lay off 60 people and other reserves that closed down, and especially where those other 4 cats is, now it's just like back to the drawing board. Like, where do you go from here? Now, that's what the problem is. So COVID has struck South Africa tourism very hard. And that's where people started poaching in, because now they're not getting any money from these reserves. And the communities bordered on your reserve, and the communities bordered on the fence lines are now in desperate times, and they need to poach. So what do? They need to poach animals to make money, and they got a family to feed. So it's tragic. That's what's happening. So hopefully we're praying that these borders can open up now again, and tourists can come flocking in, and it can bring back the jobs, and it can be sustainable, and the animals won't be pressurized as much as it is currently, and we can move forward from there. So,
I think everybody's starting to get ready for things to kind of open back up, and obviously in some places it's more dire than others that the borders start to open back up and lockdowns start to let up. Unfortunately, it's just so hard to figure out what's going to happen next, because COVID is just sort of always evolving, and we're just all trying to evolve with it. And unfortunately, it has just wreaked havoc on our entire planet. It's not been good. But we're going to switch gears here for a minute, and we've got a couple of fun questions. I'll let you ask the first one.
All right. The first one's a pretty simple one for both of you. What's your favorite cat species?
I'll let you guess his.
It's lion. Has always been lion.
Lion. All right.
And leopard for me.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna. I was like typing the question. I was like, Vanessa's gonna say leopard. I just know it. Of
course, I fell in love with Rhino, and I never looked back.
I can't blame you. He was a handsome man. Oh, that man. All right.
Next one's all yours.
So a little bit of a backstory for our listeners and viewers.
I think you should just ask the question.
Then one time Vanessa and I were working on a project, and we were working on cage wire, and all of a sudden Vanessa somehow ripped her pants. And so ever since Vanessa and I have been friends, there's been a sort of a running pant ripping tally. So how many pairs of pants have you ripped or torn recently? And how many pairs of pants do you have that are still fully intact?
I would say I've ripped every single pair of pants that I have owned, but about a month ago, I went and I bought myself some new pants, and I am sporting them right now.
Very nice. Very nice.
They are intact. It'll probably last another month before I rip them on something.
Every once in a while, I get a message and just be like, I ripped another pair of pants. And I was just like, oh, we've got to get you like Teflon pants, just like so durable, like up for
You're
anything
not
pants.
hard enough if you haven't ripped your pants.
Yeah, no, been there, done that. I am currently also
Yep.
sporting a couple pairs of pants that are now ripped and or torn, and I just don't care. I just keep going with it.
So so another one here real quick. We good on pants?
Yeah, I think we're good on the pants.
Alright.
Because these guys are probably hungry,
Yeah.
and it's late there, and Vanessa's phone is dying, so we won't keep you too much longer.
Plug my phone in. We're good for now.
Awesome.
All right.
It's almost
Beer
Beer
o'clock.
o'clock.
Yes, it is. It's almost beer o'clock there too. So we'll
What is
get
it?
you guys.
It's 11:45. It's like beer o'clock here.
It's almost beer o'clock.
All right. So one thing that I want to hear a little bit more about. So the anti-poaching dog.
Yes.
What's the backstory? What's the future? How did you guys get involved with this? I think there's something to dig into here.
And are there any other four-legged residents in your dwelling?
And are there puppies? No.
Oy.
So we'll let you them in a couple of seconds. So we have Zulu, who is 3 years old. Yeah. And our newest member is Kiza. She is 5 months old. Zulu lives here with us. Kiza lives with the manager's daughter.
Quickly bring both of them in.
Yeah. So Zulu was Divan's dog, and got him is Divan's dog, and got him for the purpose of anti-poaching. So when he's working and he's on points, and we do some type of training with him every single day that we can, whether it's just tracking or it's running or some type of, I'm sorry, they're going a little hectic.
Oh my goodness.
But they are trained to do their job, which is to take down a poacher if one is to come on our property.
So far, Zulu just
So far Zulu is just trained, but we brought Kiza on to train with him, so we are starting a group to keep the poachers at bay, essentially.
Excellent. Good.
That is way cool.
That I love that.
Yeah. That is just awesome.
Yeah. I'm gonna let me come this way. Maybe you can.
This is Zulu. And then you can see little Kiza biting him. She's only 5 months old now.
Oh my gosh.
Wait. Kiza, owie.
They're very playful right now.
Yeah, Zulu. Okay, los.
Playful right now.
No kidding.
So it was definitely different going from surrounded by cats and foster kittens to going with 2 anti-poaching dogs. It was definitely different. But I saw a statistic the other day that organizations.
Yep. Dog got it.
That was Zulu 101.
So
Yeah.
so once a dog gets a poacher, does that word spread pretty quickly that don't go there?
Yeah, so you get different types of poachers. You get opportunist poachers that just come in to poach antelopes, and they just steal normal risk takers, poachers. Then you get your strategic syndicate poachers. These are for the rhinos, and these oaks are ex-militants from bordering countries, and they come in with so much background and checks. So if they come in with full force and they'll kill you. There's no second thoughts about it. So it's all about intel. So if you got this dog and there's a rhino poaching that happened, we've got these dogs that can track and bite. So it helps us to track down these poachers, and then they can just hold them down in position, and we can make their arrest, and then we can interrogate with questions to follow up with more information, and can help other reserves, which is basically amazing in the Eastern Cape. Everybody is well connected on the private reserves. Everybody commutes. So we had zero poaching so far this year, touch wood, on rhino poaching. in this province, which is amazing. But rhinos in general across South Africa, we lose about over 1,000 rhinos each year. So it's massive. It's more in the Kruger National Park area where they get hit hard now. But they're dropping. The numbers are dropping so fast that these syndicates are going to go and hit the Eastern Cape now of South Africa. So we're just being vigilant and prepared, and just the presence and the people knowing that there's dogs in the anti-poaching unit, and we are on the lookout. It just makes them a bit more hesitant. And we don't have a routine. We just go out randomly, full moon checks and random checks on the rhinos. We just make sure that they're correct. And we're also going into an initiative where we're going to go into black rhino conservation with sandparks, and we're going to help with the black rhinos getting more genetic metapopulations on our area, and we can have a breeding ground to get the black rhinoceros out there, more the genetic. So our fingers in conservation is in many pies. So we're trying to help out where we can, but yeah, it definitely helps a little bit to prevent poachers from coming in. And it's always just helpful when you got a dog on because these poachers, they are so cunning and wise and smart. I wouldn't say wise poaching a rhino, but just they're more intelligent to know what they're doing because they're militant. So they're not fooling around. You'll be in the bush and you won't know about it, and they'll be hiding there and they ambush you just to get you out of the picture. But the dog helps you. The dog's there. They'll alert and they'll warn you if there's a poacher and so on. So it goes. That's a whole nother talk another time.
There's a special place in the afterlife for poachers. I firmly believe that. Maybe not such a nice place.
Yeah. So we need a lot of support and help from everybody, and we believe that everybody get involved, and we can make this movement happen right now forward. And the more educated, the more knowledge goes out there, the more we can make a difference. And if we're united, we stand together. But if we divided, we are conquered. So we need to stand united in the effort of our heritage, and we can do anything. We can move any mountain when we're united, and that's the positive out of this all. If the more knowledge, the more awareness is out there, the more we can impact them. And safeguard our custodianship as ambassadors to these animals and ensure that their future goes on.
Yeah. I think that's I mean, there's a documentary that just dropped on Tuesday of this week. If you guys get the chance to watch it, it's called The Hidden Tiger. Did you see it, Vanessa, yet? Or
heard of it, yeah.
It is phenomenal. I mean, we've seen it a couple times already. It is so good, and it shares that same message of the world needs tigers, and it's just exactly like what you guys are saying. It's just tiger based as opposed to lion based, and it's just the perfect message. And you guys, I feel like if you guys get the chance to watch it, you would both enjoy it. Honestly, he was weepy, and Vanessa, he's part robot, so the fact that it choked him up, that was pretty impactful. But if you guys get the chance to watch it, it's definitely a good watch, and it's very moving. And there's just wild tigers just in their natural habitat, photos and videos which are stunning. It's just very moving. But so I digress. Before we go, because this is gonna be our last question, so we'll let you guys get going. Is there anything we haven't discussed that you would like to share with our listeners or viewers?
Guess not.
My phone is just no matter where you go or what you do to try and help animals, do your research first. Always do your research first before you go, and ask the hard questions. And it never hurts to ask to speak to someone in charge, or, hey, who's in charge of the lions? I want to know more. And we are big supporters, of course, of the Big Cat Public Safety Act. And, starting from high up, the government needs to change so the laws can change so we can save the earth. And just, it's a big fight and a big mountain that we all have to climb. But if we do it together, it's so much easier.
Yeah, I've got two things to add there. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Big Cat Rescue, what you're doing for the big cats over there in America. So, Vanessa told me everything what you're doing, and I highly respect and value and support you. And secondly, thank you. And secondly, for all the viewers out there, no matter who you are, your impact is so valuable and contributes so much. You don't understand. Doesn't matter how small it is. Just a word, just research, whatever you're doing. Don't ever think that whatever you do won't have an impact. It will have an impact, and that domino effect will ripple. And that's how we make that change.
Siaya.
Siaya Pambi. It's a Zulu phrase for keep moving forward.
I like that.
It's tattoo
like
worthy
that.
right there.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hakuna Matata. Siaya Pambili.
It means no worries. All right. Well, I thank you guys so much. I know you've had a long day. I know your day is ending and you're ready to unwind. So thank you guys so much for taking this time. We appreciate you. I know there were technical difficulties and there was just insanity with baboons. But thank you. This has been eye-opening and enlightening and really delightful. I've just enjoyed learning more about things that I didn't know were going on in our world, and being able to share that now with other people all over the world is something that I think is really hopefully going to have a positive impact and wake people up and get them motivated and moving to want to help you guys in this endeavor, and people who are sharing this responsibility with you right there on site in South Africa. So we'll make sure that we include links and all sorts of information. Vanessa will probably be tapping you for some of that information later on tomorrow or throughout the week as he edits, because that's not my department. But thank you guys so much. This has been awesome. I miss you. I'm excited to see you when you come home.
I miss so. Thank you guys. I love to do this again at some point. I feel like I learned something new and we can really narrow things down and get to the nitty gritty and show you some lions and and things.
Heck yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would love to see lions. I would cry. I mean, I would just cry. It would just be the way it goes. That's how I am. I hope someday that we can make it out to you guys in person.
We'll just drive right over.
Yeah, we'll drive. We'll take your vehicle
It's
because
around the corner. Quick walk.
your vehicle is more likely to fall apart anyway. So let's just use that one.
Oh, you can. Well, cool. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. We really appreciate it. And you know what, Vanessa will probably check in with you guys like once a quarter or something, and you guys can give us an update of what's going on out there. This is awesome.
We'd love it.
All right, cool.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great night, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Bye, guys.
See ya.
All right, so what'd you guys think? Definitely, like Andy said before, a lot of content, a lot coming at you. We hit the ground running, and it's definitely an experience. It's a ride.
Yeah, that was a lot of just information I wasn't necessarily expecting. You know, it was more of a, hey, Vanessa, how's it going? And all of a sudden it's like a really impactful thing that they're doing over there. And it sounds like they're very much in a boots on the ground situation. And I know, you know, we talked to the whole group of Hidden Tiger last time, and then Carole the time before that, and everybody's doing their part. Just this is a really unique situation, isn't it?
Yeah. And I liked the fact that there was focus on, don't get me wrong, I love the big cat conservation. I think it's vitally important, but I also love the fact that there was a focus on species other than cats, and also the entire ecosystem and environment. So again, there was that message portrayed in Hidden Tiger about the ecosystem. If you guys haven't watched it, watch it. I can't stop talking about it. But it was very, there was a lot that tied together. There was a lot of relative information. It was just taking information from one continent or country and applying it to a completely different continent and country for a different species of animal, but the message was the same and the goal was the same. So it was very cool to see how these all tie in together. You know, you've got different countries and continents all working towards this same goal of conservation of the exotic cat species, and working on figuring out how to achieve that.
Well, and even when, you know, you heard him talking about they're planting trees, and I think Vanessa may have brought it up first. I would have never even thought about that. Is that would be such an important item to bring to the table to make sure that these animals, and not just cats for them, thrive.
But it just makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
So we hope you enjoyed this podcast, video cast. We look forward to seeing you guys again. We hope to have more fun, exciting guests, and kind of just going down this rabbit hole together for season 3 of Cat Chat with Bridget and Andy. Look forward to seeing you guys again, and hope you have a great day.
Yeah, and if any of you have any suggestions, you can email us at catchat@bigcatrescue.org.
Take care.
Bye.